Hey guys, welcome back to Fantasy Tipped. This is the first episode that I'm putting out for the 2024-2025 season. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Julian, and I'm your guide to succeed in fantasy hockey. I put out so much content to help you guys have the best possible draft come your draft day. And then throughout the season, I put out videos on who you should add, who you should drop to make sure that you always have the best possible team and win your fantasy hockey leagues. Now I'm happy to be back. I've been planning a wedding and I just moved into a new home. This is a brand new studio if you guys didn't notice, and I'm super happy to be here, and I'm set up the way I want to be finally. So I'm really happy about that. And I'm really excited to be getting back to filming videos. Now I've got some nice, exciting news for all you guys. I have started a Discord channel for you fantasy tip members, for you guys to have some discussions, for me to be able to engage with you guys in the community a little bit better. I've also started an Instagram, so make sure to follow that. Everything is going to be in the link below, so definitely check that out, guys. I'm going to do my best to update a Discord channel. Obviously, never done that before, but I'm excited to do that. I know people have been wanting that for a while, so I'm absolutely doing that. Trying to do more for the community this year and really take my channel to the next level. And guys, if you do want a draft guide, I've started a subscription based on YouTube. So you can either join my YouTube or my Patreon, also link in the description below. And you'll get access to my draft guide, which is an Excel spreadsheet which has all of my player rankings and all of my goalie rankings for the season. I put a lot of effort into this, guys, so you definitely want that. Be sure to subscribe to YouTube memberships or Patreon. And obviously, plenty of other perks becoming a member as well, which I'll announce in future videos because I don't want to ramble on too much today. I'm so excited to get back into it today, guys. The content today is about NHL's list because they put out their list of their top 200 best fantasy players, and I'm going to be reacting to it, what I think is crazy that they put somebody too high or too low, and where I think that they may have missed players on that list entirely. Before we jump into it, guys, drop a like and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already done so for this channel. Trust me, it'll be worth it. All right, guys, so let's take a look at NHL's list of their top 200 best fantasy players this year. And to nobody's surprise, Connor McDavid is number 1, Nathan MacKinnon is number 2, and Kucherov earned his spot at number 3. Matthews and Pasternak makes sense. Draisaitl I actually have a little bit lower on my rankings this year. Panarin to be that high, honestly, we'll have to continue that very high shooting rate that he did last year. Never really did that before. He shot a lot last year. If he does that again, definitely could merit that spot at number 7. Rantanen, Tkachuk, Crosby, Makar, a lot of these make a lot of sense. The first one I see a little bit of a red flag is Quinn Hughes at number 16. Yes, Quinn Hughes was fantastic last year. He had the best season of his NHL career last year, and he was the 39th best fantasy player. Having him at 16 just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. The Canucks shooting percentage, or on-ice shooting percentage as a whole, was pretty freaking high too, so I expect a little bit of regression. There's no way that he's worth taking at number 16. A lot of these next guys, Reinhart seems a little bit high, but he's going to really have to keep up that high shooting percentage he did last year. And even then, definitely doesn't deserve to be 18 on this list. I'm definitely expecting some regression for Reinhart. Around 37. Reaching for a defenseman early isn't the worst idea, though, and Bouchard's definitely one of the best ones to grab, so I don't hate that too much. Zach Hyman, he was amazing last year, and I think that ranking is actually pretty deserved. Igor Shesterkin is the first goalie off the board here. I personally have him as my third goalie off the board, so Igor Shesterkin, while I do think he might have a great bounce back here, is a little bit high here, and I don't love the idea of grabbing a goalie so early. Yossi is a good value here. Swayman is going to be solid this year for Boston. Definitely going to get some more starts and is definitely one of the best fantasy goalies this year. That being said, I do think he's a little bit high here. Forsberg definitely deserves to be here after the incredible year he had last year. Pettersson is pretty much right on the money. Ovechkin is pretty accurate as well. Trocheck at 32, believe it or not, deserves to be there. He had an incredible year last year, and if he can keep up that kind of play, definitely should finish around that mark. Just keep in mind that he is a natural center, so it's not the highest value pick drafting a center that early, especially since there's so many good centers available late. I might go for the next guy on this list, Victor Hedman. He's decent value too. Definitely should have a nice bounce back year. But Sergachev gone. He's guaranteed power play one, and he was pretty much power play one the whole year last year. So Hedman definitely a nice safe pick this year. Saros, obviously, you guys know I love UC Saros, and Ottinger and Hellbuck, all great goalies. I actually have Hellbuck as my number one goalie this year, and I think he's going to be amazing as he usually is. In this stage of the list, nothing too glaringly bad. Honestly, Joel Eriksson Ek is actually pretty low on this list. I would have him around the 30 range. He was amazing last year, and he's a really underrated player. Now, Wyatt Johnston at 55 is pretty high. I do think he's going to have an amazing year, but it is definitely a risky draft pick that I'm not willing to take if he is in fact going that high. Obviously, the kid has a lot of potential, but he's also very young, and he's not super consistent just yet. We don't know how consistent he's going to be. I'd rather go with someone a little bit safer in that range. So we see Mikhail Sergachev there, and he's going to get top power play time in Utah this year. Definitely should have himself a really nice year. And then Zibanejad all the way down at 65. I think NHL has him ranked pretty low on this list. I think in reality, though, he's probably going to be drafted a lot higher, probably around the 35 range, which is where I think he deserves to be drafted. You can see Dougie Hamilton there at 67 at the bottom of the screen there, and he's someone that is a very risky pick with Luke Hughes probably manning the power play. We don't really know. He was injured, Dougie Hamilton was last season for a lot of it, so we don't really know what his deployment's going to be like, and honestly, he's a very scary pick. Obviously, it could be a huge hit, but could also be a huge miss. And this early in the draft, it's not worth drafting someone with that much downside. Moving along here, Frederik Andersen, number 78 on the Hurricanes, is someone who's very injury prone, and being picked that early is a very risky pick. Obviously, could definitely pan out, but there's so many good goalies available. I'm not sure I'd risk one pick this early on Frederik Andersen. I don't think he'll go this early, but who knows? In the few games he did play last year, he was incredible. Joseph Woll seems a little high as well, considering they just got Stolars, and I do see them splitting the starts a little bit more. Obviously, Woll is going to be the starter, but will it be more of a 1A, 1B type situation? I've said it for years. Anthony Stolars is one of the most underrated goalies in the NHL, and I think he steals quite a bit of starts in Toronto. Scrolling down a little bit more, we see Devon Toews at number 91. I honestly think that's really high to be picking Devon Toews this year. He was a top-tier defenseman just a couple of years ago, but his numbers have fallen down. His peripherals are still pretty good, but the points aren't quite as plentiful. And honestly, guys, if you're going to be picking a defenseman from Colorado, you want Makar. And Devon Toews definitely does get a lot more value if Makar gets injured. That's not something that you have to base your draft on. Oh, this person's for sure going to get injured. No, of course not. Makar's not super injury prone either. It's just a weird pick to me. Devon Toews, I have ranked closer to the 150, 160 range. Taking a look at number 92, I say Andrei Svechnikov. And obviously, he's had his injury struggles, but he is one heck of a hockey player. Shoots a lot, hits a lot, and is really a guy who can score a lot of goals and get you a lot of fantasy points. Even with his injury history, I have him ranked at number 51, and obviously he could finish even higher if he actually makes it through the season without getting injured. Obviously, there's a little bit of risk drafting him, but this low at number 92, it could be worth it. Continuing along now, I see Mackenzie Weegar at 105. The top of your screen here. Wow, that is incredibly late. If he's going in this range, he is an absolute must draft. To me, he's a top 50 player. The peripherals are great. And last year, towards the end of the year, Calgary was actually giving him top power play time. This guy had a really phenomenal year on a really not that great team. So if he's able to do that again, which he should, he's an absolute slam dunk pick, especially if he's going this late. He's a top 50 player once again for me. Nazem Kadri last year finished as the 47th best player, and he's being ranked by NHL as the 134th best player, almost 100 spots higher than he finished last year. Now, I get it. He's a natural center, but come on. This is way too low of a ranking for Nazem Kadri. He deserves better. I'm seeing Jordan Kyrou at 144, even though he didn't have his best season last year. Come on, he's a top 100 player, guaranteed. This is way too low for him. Filip Hronek at 147. I don't know how I feel about Hronek. He had a really amazing first half of the season and a really, really terrible second half of the season. He's not a top power play guy, so I don't really feel comfortable drafting him. And at 147, there are some safer options. Brent Burns is not one of those safer options, but Zach Werenski in between those two guys would definitely be a safer option. I think he's being drafted too late here, if you ask me. Brent Burns, though, is someone that I don't have ranked very high this year. I have him ranked over 200. Honestly, he wasn't great last year, and they didn't just get Gostisbehere, so Brent Burns is probably not even on that top power play anymore. So really, I'm not excited to draft Brent Burns, and I'd avoid him especially that early. Victor Arvidsson of the Edmonton Oilers, I think, is ranked way too low. Could definitely finish way above that if he stays healthy. And he's definitely going to get top 6 minutes with either Connor or Leon. So I really like his upside this year. And if he is really going in this range, I think he's an absolute must draft. Drouin had himself a nice year last year, but I still think he's ranked a little bit too high. Jared McCann at 160, too low. John Carlson at 162, are you kidding me? That is way too low. I have him ranked at almost half that at the 82 range. Tom Wilson at 166 is way too low as well. If you're in a league that counts hits, Tom Wilson is worth a whole lot more. Sam Bennett also, obviously didn't have the most amazing season last year, but 167 is quite low. Though he is a natural center, so it might actually make sense, and he may actually end up being drafted in this range. If he is, could be a steal. Brian Rust had himself a very sneaky under-the-radar season after a pretty bad season the season before. Brian Rust could realistically be a top 50 player. Will he necessarily be? No. But come on, being drafted at 179 as a right winger, which is a position that's, there's not necessarily a lot of, I think he's a huge steal if he actually ends up being drafted in. Cole Perfetti at 187, that's too high for me. Winnipeg's got quite a bit of firepower, and Perfetti hasn't really proven anything to me yet to be drafted this early. I don't think he's going to return that value. Obviously, it's pretty late at this point, but still don't think he's going to return that value. And then Michael Bunting at number 200 is someone who I think is returning a lot of value if he's actually being drafted that late, because he's probably going to be playing top line with Crosby, and he looked pretty freaking good there. He definitely could return a top 150 value at the very least, and you're getting him around 200. Now, guys, there are some guys that NHL didn't include on their list, which I think is absolutely crazy because they belong in the top 200 fantasy players. Some of those guys that I really noticed were Boone Jenner is a top 100 player. Josh Norris, if healthy, could also be a top 100 player. Valeri Nichushkin, if he gets out of the player assistant program, absolutely is also a top 100 player. Dylan Cousins is a top 150 player. Justin Falk is a top 150 player. And also, Yegor Sharangovich, give the guy some love. He's definitely a top 200 player this year. Showed what he could do towards the end of last season, and I believe that he's going to continue to play well this year. All right, so that's just a sneak peek of my content this year, guys. I have so much in store for you guys, and definitely make sure to join that Discord channel and subscribe if you haven't already, guys. Until next time, I'll catch you in the next episode of Fantasy Tech.